When I won the second Oscar, I said I wanted to be the best actor I could be. Would have happened without the family. None of that would have happened, and not just my wife, but the love.
Did you know that Denzel Washington has quietly erased people from his life? People who thought they were untouchable in Hollywood? Some actors walked onto his set thinking it was just another job and walked off, never to be invited back. To the world, Denzel is the respected king of Hollywood who never argues, never gossips, and never exposes anyone in public. Instead, he does something far worse. He cuts people off completely without second chances. And for decades, the names on that list stayed hidden until now. Today, we're exposing the disappear list, the 6 actors who crossed Denzel Washington and paid the price in silence. Gene Hackman. Number 6 on Denzel Washington's secret disappear list takes us back to 1985 and one of the most intense submarine films ever made, Crimson Tide. It seemed like a perfect match on paper. Denzel Washington, the rising king of intensity, plays alongside Gene Hackman, the rugged icon who almost made the tough guy authority figure. 2 great performers, a small submarine set, and a lot of tension that may blow up at any time. What might go wrong? A lot of things. People on set report that from the very first table read, the environment was thick, heavy, and uncomfortable, full of silent warnings. Gene Hackman was like the old-school Hollywood type, loud, bossy, and used to getting his way. He had been in the business for decades, won Oscars, and was not used to anyone questioning his authority. On the other hand, Denzel was really into method acting. He got ready in silence, stacked every emotion, and made sure that every phrase felt real. 2 entirely different ways of doing things are trying to work together in the same submarine. Hackman didn't just disagree with Denzel's manner, he flat out rejected it. Reports say he disrupted scenes, yelled commands in the middle of a take, and even rolled his eyes when Denzel asked for another take to find the truth at a moment. Crew members later said that it made the mood so tight that it could be sliced with a knife. Denzel maintained calm on the outside, which is typical of him, but those who know him claim his jaw was so tight that it almost clicked. There weren't any loud fights or arguments. It was colder than that, stares without words, short responses. A wall was getting bigger between 2 men who should have been working together. Director Tony Scott was stuck in the middle, fighting to keep the ship from sinking before it even went underneath. Some days, filming almost stopped because the 2 main actors couldn't even look at each other. Hackman is said to have advised the crew that Denzel was too sensitive and thinking too much. Denzel didn't say anything publicly, but those who know him say he was really angry, not over the critique itself, but because Hackman had insulted the process. Denzel sees acting as a sacred art, not a way to show off. Hackman acted like it was one. Despite the fact that there was a great deal of pressure, the movie was produced. The movie Crimson Tide was fantastic, packed with a lot of tension, and it even received an Oscar nomination. The damage, however, was done behind the scenes. When it was time for the movie to end, Denzel did not say goodbye in the manner that he always does. There is no handshake, not a single word of gentleness. It was Hackman who chose his own way. Denzel completed his work. That was the last time they ever collaborated on a project together. Not a single time. When it comes to a different project, not even a tiny portion of it. He doesn't talk about his problems in public. He doesn't write stories that tell all. He removes people softly, permanently, and professionally. That was very cold. That was work. That was Denzel. But what comes next? Number 5 wasn't just a job, it became personal, very personal. Chris Pine. Did you know that one careless joke could make Denzel Washington vanish you from Hollywood? That's exactly what happened with Chris Pine. He was bright, charming, and full of swagger, but he was on the wrong side of Denzel's discipline, so charisma didn't help him. On set, everything got underway. Pine walked onto a set with a great deal of self-assurance, believing that his charisma and smiles would be enough to get him through without any problems. He possessed the Hollywood smile and the self-assurance that, in general, helps young actors advance in their careers. On the other hand, Denzel was not your typical actor. He was a person who adhered to stringent standards and approached every statement, scene, and moment with an intensity that was almost religious. And Pine was unaware of the fact that he was acting more like a friend than a soldier when he arrived at the scene. It started out small, a joke here, a missed beat there. Pine would create a phrase on the spot, believing it was smart, and it would give the scenario some individuality. But Denzel saw it all, not with a loud voice, a dramatic reaction, or a public call-out, but with a presence so strong that it filled the room and made mistakes feel huge. Denzel's eyes were on every twitch, missed cue, and fluffed line. He didn't shout, he didn't give a speech, he was just there, calm, crisp, and cold as ice. And that quiet judgment was stronger than any outcry. The amount of tension got worse. One day, as Pine was performing a significant scene, he attempted yet another hilarious remark. He desired to seize the opportunity and demonstrate that he was more charming than skilled in the situation. Denzel presently came to a halt. Nobody spoke a single word. Simply have a peek. The kind of stare that not only allows you to be seen, but also evaluates, and evaluates you. There was a sensation that the air was becoming more condensed. Suddenly, the team came to a halt. Within a short period of time, Pine became aware that he was no longer merely an actor on location. There he was, immersed in Denzel's world. A single error could end up costing someone everything in that setting. Days went by and the gap between them grew even bigger. There were no fights, no yelling, no public drama, just short discussions, quick glances, and a tension that was so dense it could cut through the studio lights. Pine's charm, which had worked for auditions and press junkets, didn't work here. In Denzel's world, being professional isn't an option, it's against the law. And Chris Pine had broken it over and over again, without even knowing it. The smiles were gone by the time the filming was done. The effortless friendship was gone. Hollywood productions normally end with handshakes, but this one didn't. Most young actors don't really comprehend this, but Pine walked away with a quiet, sinking realization. Denzel doesn't forgive disrespect. He makes it go away, without any notice, comment, or fanfare. You can't argue your way back. You don't get a second chance. You just don't exist in his universe anymore. The disappear list has that kind of power. It can't be seen. It's not obvious. It's awful. And it's all below the surface. Pine's charisma didn't let him down on camera. It let him down in the real world of work. In Denzel's world, respect, discipline, and attention are always more important than charm. And if you don't fulfill that criterion, the effects will last forever. A single man, sitting in calm control, transforming the atmosphere into a courtroom of judgment, with a look, a pause, or a gesture that was not made, is difficult to put into words unless you have witnessed it yourself. Pine realized the lesson the hard way. The takeaway is crystal clear. In Denzel's world, having the ability is not sufficient. Your ego, jokes, or charm are not going to go very far. If you make even a single mistake or even a single reckless deed, you will vanish for good. Chris Pine's story is a warning and a piece of insider information about how Denzel works. It's not that loud, it's not dirty, but it will be with you forever. And for everyone else who works with Denzel, that quiet strength, that quiet demand for respect, is something you sense right away and never forget. Samuel L. Jackson. You wouldn't expect Samuel L. Jackson to land fourth on Denzel's private backlist, right? Yet he is. It all started with a comment that hurt Denzel more than he thought it would. Samuel joked during a press conference for a big movie that Denzel overthinks everything, and everyone laughed like it was no big deal. For someone else, it might have just been a joke. Denzel didn't ask for the exam, and he didn't take it lightly. Samuel L. Jackson has always had a presence that is hard to miss. He is loud, bold, and magnetic, and he always draws attention to himself. Denzel doesn't fight with cameras or lighting. He doesn't have to. His quiet intensity pervades the room. Every look and every move has power. And when these two forces met, the tension wasn't clear at first. It was really small, not very visible. But everyone on site could feel the tension in the air. It started out little, like a playful shadow. A teasing line here, a wink there, and a public indication that Denzel takes things too seriously. Samuel was brave enough to make fun of anyone, but not Denzel. You didn't go above that cue. Denzel didn't say anything, do anything dramatic, or put on a show for the cameras. He merely watched. Be calm. It's cold. Every step and every look was watched. His silence meant more than any yell ever could. It nearly felt like a movie on set. Two really big people moving in the same frame, knowing how strong the other is. Denzel's slow, planned pacing didn't go well with Samuel's quick fire. Short answers, long pauses, and even the smallest movement of an eyebrow spoke more than words ever could. The crew could feel it. Every word, gesture, and look became a silent battlefield. Not fights, not yelling. Just like ice around a flame, pressure builds up. Then, things started to change. There was a charity event with cameras rolling and talks going on. Samuel made another joke about method actors that made everyone chuckle. Denzel's eyes stayed still. His jaw stayed in place. His quiet stopped time. That brief, almost undetectable moment created a line in the sand. The fun shade turned into serious disrespect, and Denzel won't forgive it. After the events of that night, everything had changed. There were opportunities that Samuel could have taken advantage of, but he did not. They did not collaborate on any initiatives that would have been a good way to bring them together. No brawls in the open places. It is not a news story. The erasing could be done by Denzel in this manner. In the end, it is faint and unnoticeable. The discipline, norms, and respect that were gently but persistently enforced were not a form of revenge. Rather, they were standards. Hollywood still talks about the invisible fight decades later, the alliances that are frozen, the what-if projects that never happened. Samuel was the best in other areas. Denzel kept working on his famous profession. But what about their paths? Never crossed the same way again. That's what Denzel is like. It's not loud, not really dramatic. It's a quiet choice that will last forever. You can't find it on social media. You don't see it in the tabloids. You can sense it in things that don't happen, like roles that disappear and collaborations that fade. That's what the disappear list can do. And if you thought the rivalry was bad, just wait until number 3. Wesley Snipes didn't simply fight with Denzel. He went too far and left a mark that no one could ignore. Wesley Snipes. You don't have to be kind, you only need to cross the line. And Wesley Snipes? He did that. Hollywood doesn't often talk about this fact about Denzel Washington. There is a man behind the calm, commanding presence, the 2-time Oscar winner, and the famous on-screen intensity. He doesn't forget when trust is betrayed. One of his co-stars tried that patience years ago, and Denzel expected professionalism from that person. Wesley Snipes. Yes, the same Snipes that everyone remembers as smart, brave, and unbeatable. Working with Denzel should have been great on paper. You'd think there would be fireworks with 2 experienced actors, one tale and one scene. But what happened off camera was very different. It began a little. Snipes may bend the script, add gags, make up lines, and change beats in the middle of a take. Denzel? Every pause, every look, and every line was important. Acting wasn't a hobby, it was a job. And when Snipes broke that routine, it wasn't fun, it was a breach. Not very clear, but definitely there. What was the breaking point? A tense and important scene, one that required quiet restraint and a steady rise in intensity. Snipes went off the rails, more dramatic actions, more volume in the delivery. A little bit of flair when it was needed. People might have seen energy on screen. Denzel felt trust being torn apart off screen. Denzel did not let out an outburst. On the set, he did not exhibit any signs of insane actions, and he looked. There was a message conveyed through every glance, every pause, and every reaction that was well considered. Either show respect for the craft or be gone. Wesley exerted his force, pushed the boundaries of what was possible, ignored the dangers, pushed on. As smoke spread, the stress increased. The corridors became locations where people stood still and remained still. In whispered conversations, members of the crew talked about the conflict that they perceived but were unable to identify. Every time it turned into a struggle for control. Who is in charge of that particular moment? Those who give in? Never once did Snipes give up. There was no change in Denzel. Take a deep breath. Exactly. Refusing to give up. When the manufacturing process was finished, the distance had been covered. There will be no casual greetings. There will be no backslaps. No need to say, "Well done." It's just a cool, professional manner that is quiet but loud. Denzel was never required to make a fuss over anything. When he appears in public, he does not speak negatively about his co-workers. He is able to drive them away. There is a possibility that Snipes had opportunities that were discreetly lost. There will be no more collaboration. The contact has come to an end. And Snipes? There is no longer any drama in Denzel's life. Rather, he has gone away in a peaceful manner. People who were there still talk about the tension years later. The chemistry on screen appeared electric. Behind the scenes? A war without sound. That's how Denzel is. He doesn't use words to fight. He chooses who stays and who turns into a ghost. He doesn't yell, he deletes. He doesn't give lectures, he disappears. And when someone breaks the unspoken standards of respect, they are done for good. Wesley Snipes had to learn the hard way. He didn't think that Denzel Washington's patience had a limit. Cross it, and the lesson isn't loud. It's complete erasing. In Hollywood, confrontations and meltdowns are great for rumor. In Denzel's life, silence is the most powerful thing. That's why Wesley Snipes will always be on a very private list. The folks Denzel will never work with again. Because certain lessons don't need to be repeated once they've been learned. Some betrayals don't need to be in the news. And what about certain names? They silently leave the world of a legend, leaving behind only a whisper. Cross me, and you're gone. That's what happened to Wesley Snipes. Not rage, not a fight, just being gone. In Denzel Washington's world, being absent says louder than any apology ever could. Will Smith. Denzel Washington is capable of becoming a happy person. Few people have the ability to convince him to remove you from his life in a covert manner. The name Will Smith was the one that put the king of calm through the most rigorous test. Almost everyone is familiar with this name. When it comes to serenity, there are two types. The first is calm, like Denzel Washington, the kind of presence that is so precise and measured that it can fill a room without the need for any words to be said. Then there is the energy that Will Smith possesses, which is loud, magnetic, and not something that can be ignored. The occurrence of two events that ought not to have taken place happened. The vibrant jungle of Hollywood was where they ran into each other for a number of years. Award shows, charity events, panel discussions, parties, and other types of gatherings are all possible. An assortment of photographs depicted individuals smiling, shaking hands, and clapping pleasantly. Friendship was seen all across the world. Denzel was able to recognize patterns. He was aware of the interruptions, the jokes that were not funny, and the insignificant gestures of attention that were not given their due. Eventually, they accumulated like tiny cracks in a piece of polished glass. No, it was not pride. It is not necessary for Denzel to provide any evidence. It is his art that speaks for itself. Will, on the other hand, excels in situations where there are other individuals present. He is quick to speak, quick to move, and he spreads energy across the entire space. Exciting is the word. There is magnetism. In addition, Denzel's method of doing things, which is quiet and deliberate, is completely incompatible with it. And then came the moment that everyone will never forget. That particular evening at the Academy Awards, just one hit. There are a lot of folks who are in front of screens. The videos that went viral went around and around. When it came to Denzel, however, it was a quick and piercing moment that culminated years of seemingly insignificant issues. Too many times, straining the limits, old difficulties, and different ways of thinking are all contributing factors. It has nothing to do with the news. Regard was the most important thing. Denzel doesn't shout, doesn't get worse, doesn't put up a show for the cameras. His way is quieter and more lasting. He doesn't confront someone in public when they cross the queue. He makes them go away. And in Hollywood, that's a lot scarier than a fight. It's done. The insiders said that immediately following the events of that night, Denzel returned. In no way did he speak negatively of Will. This is something he never does. The phone was not answered by anyone. It was decided not to accept invitations to several private functions. Friends were informed in a hushed manner that Hollywood had lost sight of what it meant to be respectful. There was more to the SWAT than merely a show of might. It was a treacherous act. It was as if Will's carefully cultivated image and his alleged discipline vanished in an instant. By the time they were back together on stage or participating in a panel discussion, things had changed. Pictures are included here. Laughter is depicted in photographs and magazines. Where do they come from, though? Tension occurs. Remove. A trained expert. There is no warmth, not any pals. There is only a small amount of room. Denzel does not provide an explanation. This is completely illogical. Quite simply, he does not involve you. This is a lesson that the majority of stars learn too late. What distinguishes this disappears from others of its kind? Will is not merely a co-worker who has committed an error on a single occasion. A collision of ideas, a clash of ways of fame, and a desire for permanent presence that Denzel refuses to embrace are all things that he represents. He is representing something far more than that, an uncomplicated action. The timing of the joke was not appropriate. The decades of peace and quiet are abruptly broken by a period of silence. This is what sets the disappear list apart from other similar lists. The absence of gossip columns is a sign. No brawls in the open places. The results are fair. In Denzel's world, the importance of results is greater than the importance of appearances. Respect encompasses everything. Energy on its own is not sufficient. Being well known is not sufficient. The only things that are truly important are being disciplined, making an effort, and having respect for your craft. Currently, Will Smith's identity is scrupulously recorded in a ledger that is only ever seen by a select few individuals, not out of anger, not to exact revenge on another person in order to acquire knowledge and to traverse boundaries. In a community that gets a kick out of watching shows, Denzel's silence is more powerful than any news report. When you are aware of that, you have a different perspective on Hollywood culture. Spike Lee. Denzel Washington quietly and utterly cut one individual out of his life in Hollywood. Denzel pushed one man too far, and instead of yelling or making a disturbance, he just got rid of him. Spike Lee is that dude. At first, it seemed like they could get along well. Denzel is meticulous and makes sure that every scenario is perfect. Spike is loud, brave, and never hesitant to say what he thinks, but they didn't get along with each other's ways of working from the start. Denzel likes to prepare, practice, and ponder about every little thing. Spike likes to jump in, make things up, and push others around him. It was going to be hard to work with two strong personalities on the same project. The tension began quietly. Spike was angry about the roles Denzel turned down. Spike would sometimes drop hints or complain in interviews, but never in a way that was very public. When they were on set, at award presentations, or at gatherings, The electricity between them was strong. You could practically taste it in the air. Denzel doesn't scream. He doesn't talk behind people's backs. He doesn't pick battles. But he sees everything and never forgets when someone is rude. It wasn't simply about the styles being different. Spike's manner of doing things sometimes doesn't take into account how much work Denzel puts into being ready. He would push, argue, or challenge Denzel's well-thought-out choices. Little things that bothered me slowly added up. Then they got bigger. People on the outside would think that what happened to Denzel was insignificant, but it was very personal to him. He puts respect above anything else, and Spike's behavior went too far. Denzel finally made up his mind. No interviews, no fights in public, no posts on social media. He didn't call out Spike. He just stopped talking to them. No more meetings, no more working together. Things that both of them might become separate. Denzel silently deleted him, forever. That's the bit that shocks me. People in Hollywood are always talking, fighting, and making scenes. Denzel didn't do that. He dealt with it the only way he knows how. Quietly, firmly, and totally. Spike Lee and Denzel Washington both kept working, but they never saw each other again. This fight illustrates something important about Denzel. He doesn't have to yell to be in charge. He doesn't have to act out to keep himself safe. He doesn't dispute with those who don't respect him or meet his standards. He gets rid of them. That is true for Spike Lee. So yes, years of stress, little jabs, and arguments lead to one last quiet move. No fight in public, no drama, gone as well. Denzel Washington despised Spike Lee the most, which is why he is at the top of the disappear list. Denzel is still quite well liked, even if he is really ruthless. People appreciate him for his performances, his calm assurance, and the way he can take charge of a scene without losing control. The disappear list makes things much more interesting. It shows that the calm, composed man doesn't put up with disrespect, realizes how valuable his work is, and will do anything to safeguard it. It's not just who is on Denzel Washington's disappear list that makes it so interesting. It's also why they are there. These aren't just small fights, grudges, or times when you're annoyed at work. They are tales of betrayal. Denzel's co-stars, collaborators, and even friends breached limits that he thought were sacrosanct, destroying relationships he thought were strong. And when that happens, he doesn't get upset or angry. He disappears in response. This isn't hate. It's a new way of trusting. Each name on the list is a time when someone took advantage of, used, or ignored Denzel's trust in them. For example, Will Smith wasn't simply hyper or bossy. He broke Denzel's belief that some lines would always be crossed. Spike Lee didn't only disagree with him creatively, he broke an unwritten rule of devotion. The names Hackman and Tyrese all tell the same story. Respect once granted, now broken. The disappear list isn't a punishment. It's a way to protect yourself and control the story. Betrayal in Hollywood doesn't simply hurt. It also hurts projects, reputations, and legacies. Denzel knows this better than anyone else. He protects his work, his values, and his future collaborations by quietly getting rid of anyone who crosses him. He doesn't require headlines or explanations. The erasure itself says more than rage ever could. People who have been erased are left wondering and attempting to figure out when the line was crossed. And what about that doubt? The method's strength. The disappear list basically changes the way we think about betrayal and respect. Being talented, charming, or renowned isn't enough. You also need to follow the unwritten rules of professionalism, confidentiality, and loyalty. If you break those rules, you will silently be taken out of Denzel's realm. That's the full list of actors Denzel Washington quietly erased from his circle. Shocking, right? Which one surprised you the most? Comment below. If you love this insider Hollywood drama, like this video, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping stories about your favorite stars. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's next.